Welcome into the Cards Hub postgame show here on STL Sports Central. It is brought to you by DraftKings alongside Joe Roderick. I am Chris Pelikan. Cards lose 9-2 to drop the final two games of their series with the Padres. They fall to 54-53, Joe, just a single game over 500. Now 3.5 full games out of the wild card spot. Joe, we chatted this morning in our somewhat unprepared Cards Hub 365 show.
Is this one more prepared? Is this show?
I don't know. Probably not.
And we both watched the game.
I
sweated through about 5.5 innings.
You were on the scene.
Yeah.
So again, what started as a very promising weekend with wins on Thursday and Friday ended up being a dud with two, let's be real honest, turds on Saturday and Sunday. And again, we're at this point where it seems like every game's this indicator, right? I mean, if they win this one, maybe, they're only a game and a half out of the wild card and we go for it. And maybe the trade deadline looks differently, but we chatted about this morning. I mean, it seems like this team has had 3 weeks worth of tests to prove that they were ready for management to make a move in the right direction, pushing them towards the postseason. And it seems like they failed almost all of these tests.
Yeah, and it's kind of probably what the team wanted. It's what the organization probably
makes it
wanted.
Easy for them, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that way you can sell it to the fans as, all right, this is it's what we were planning on doing. The team is not in a position to be a top contender, only one game over 500. This is what you're getting. So I think, maybe they're happy. Maybe they can at least not, piss off people. I think the attendance is probably going to go down, but until September or late August, whenever Weatherholt's able to come up there and maybe reignite the fan base.
Yeah, well, this is Card Central Postgame brought to you by DraftKings. Again, he's Joe Roderick. I'm Chris Pelikan. Folks, jump into that chat box there.
Oh, they've jumped.
They've jumped in. Fantastic. We like to hear it. We want you to be a part of the show. Let it out. Let's figure out where this team needs to go, what you want to see out of this thing. And while you're down there, please hit the like and subscribe button. So I guess let's dive into today's game. Again, a 9-2 loss. Michael McGreevy ends up giving up 7 runs today. And, there's very few pitchers who go out there and don't have duds, right? I mean, we know that.
Yeah.
McGreevy had a dud today. I don't think it means that this guy doesn't have a bright future. But I will say one thing, Joe. I feel like this is the most common thing that happens, not just in St. Louis, but in any market across baseball. The guy who's not there is the most popular guy, right? And it's the one that, if McGreevy were only up here, right? And in his limited appearances, he looked really good. I remember the guy they drafted late in the first round. Let me go ahead and silence my phone.
Yeah.
Again, high-level preparation. This is a late first-round pick out of, I think, UC Santa Barbara, and he profiled as a back-end guy rotation. And you know what? Those scouting reports are not always right. I kind of feel like when we look at what Michael McGreevy probably is, I think I feel a lot like Andre Palante in a lot of ways, where this guy could end up being a very nice 3, 4, 5 starter in rotation. I just don't know that the arsenal is there at this point in time. He's a strike thrower for the most part. But again, we get reminded against a very good Padres lineup today that, if Michael McGreevy's off a little bit, it can look pretty bad.
Yeah, and we kind of saw that, and a lot of people pointed out. I have been the biggest Michael McGreevy fan here on STL Sports Central time and time again. I think I might be the biggest Michael McGreevy fan in all of St. Louis media. And I was a little worried with some of his final starts down in Memphis that he had. He did get hit around a little bit, but he went out against a professional lineup last week in the Rockies, and now people I did that against the Rockies. Okay, he did it against a real team. Okay, I get that. I do. I will maintain my excitement for him. I'll maintain my high level of anticipation to see what he can do now that we are getting to see Michael McGreevy go through turns in the rotation, go through all of the pitcher meetings, go through all of the, throwing in the actual team's bullpen on his off days, not having to go travel back and forth to Memphis after every start.
Okay, well, so then let me ask you this. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think Michael McGreevy is going to be I think he's in this rotation for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
No, not the top guy. He really.
Where do you see him?
Like a Michael Wacha type guy, like a 2-3 in a rotation, maybe a 4 if you're building.
Well, there was a
around
time
it.
where Michael Walker looked like,
and Michael Walker's still in the league.
His shoulder blades started rubbing
Right.
against each other. Michael Walker was a 1 or a 2.
And he's still in the league to this day.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're going to get, and maybe every few years he goes out there and he puts on a show and puts up really good numbers. But we have seen Michael McGreevy get called into. I think it says a lot that he has been called into action and just, hey, you're coming up this week. Hey, you're not pitching to Memphis.
Sure.
This week. You're not pitching against the Trash Pandas this week, or the Armadillos, or whoever, the Chihuahuas, I think, or the Padres AAA team. You're not pitching against them. Nope, you're going to face the Mets this week.
Yeah.
We're going to put you in there against the Dodgers.
He's thrived in weird spots.
Yes.
There's no two ways about it. And it'll be good to see him settle in. And again, I mean, I think we're at the point where, especially with Eric Fedde being DFA'd, that, I mean, there's no debate. I mean, Michael McGreevy needs to be in this rotation through the end of the year, as long as the innings don't become a thing with him. Again, I don't know for a fact what is his career high in innings. I know that they usually cap him in the low hundreds in the minors. So, I mean, he obviously has thrown a decent amount in Memphis this year. He's thrown 9 or 10 starts for the Cardinals.
McGreevy's only, I want to say his 6th, maybe a 6th start, 5th or 6th start. I think 2 were bullpen. 2 he came out of the bullpen in games, so it's a lot lower than you think. I mean, it does seem like he's been up here. I was surprised I was looking at the numbers the other day. I was surprised by it.
Yeah.
By what he's at. People in the chat say, that he's a 3 or is a good 3 or 4. And again, I
need
think
those guys.
You also look at where he was 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was in the Cardinals' plans a few years ago. They kind of looked at him as, maybe it's a guy we can call up. Like, he has put in the work to raise up through the ranks and become this hot commodity in the Cardinal organization, to where there was so much talk around wanting to see him. And that's what he did last year. Right. That's what he did in the spring. And now, so I will continue to say he didn't get a fair shake at it this year, because, he was the best pitcher in spring training. He was the best starting pitcher for them in Jupiter, and then he gets sent down to Memphis, and then they just kind of called him up and manipulated the roster as needed to get him up here. So
you were right.
It was, let's see him in a major league environment.
6th start today for Michael McGreevy with the team, and he has not had a bullpen appearance, but it's been, in every one of his appearances, with the exception of the Cubs game where he went 4 2/3, he went at least 5 in all those. So again, I mean, like we said, you're going to have hiccups. And to your point, Michael McGreevy is a guy who, first round pick in 21, he's 25 years old now, basically kind of cementing his spot as a future major leaguer. So, this guy, they have prime years ahead with Michael McGreevy. Mm-hmm. So again, I think you can feel really, really good about what you have with McGreevy, knowing that if this guy's in the back part of your rotation, you're in pretty good shape. I think you can say the same thing about Palante. Yeah. I think we've realized that Matthew Liberatore's probably got a ceiling that's higher than those 2 guys. And so you've got 3 arms that have shown some element of efficacy this year at the majors. The consistency maybe not there, but I mean, again, if we're sitting there talking about our runway year and, what have we learned about this team? I think it's safe to say that you've learned that you have 3 arms that, while maybe are not going to front a playoff team's rotation, are guys who have good moments in them, have, kind of what you'd expect out of a 3 through 5. So, I mean,
no, and that's, you talk about a playoff rotation. So right now, I mean, if this team snuck into that 3rd wild card, like I've pushed for so much, and I'm pulling back, a split in this series humbles my expectations on that. But like, Sonny Gray is a guy that, you look at these, like some pitchers, like, a Tariq Skubal, he's just going to go at you and he's going to get you out. Same with like a Paul Skeens. Cardinals don't have that in the organization. No. Not at any level. Most teams don't. Like, a Sonny Gray is at his best when you are chasing his pitches, when he is getting you to bite on balls. That's what it is. And pitches out of the strike zone, that is when Sonny Gray is at his best. And when pitchers kind of pick, or when other teams pick something up on him, when the other teams kind of realize that and they don't chase, Sonny Gray doesn't last long in games. But when he's on, and he's a good pitcher for that. Andre Palante is a good pitcher when he gets ground balls hit at guys. So he's a contact pitcher that is going to pitch ground balls. Same thing with Miles Michaelis. He's going to throw it in there and he's going to get you out. Miles Michaelis has thrown a lot of innings in his life, and now a lot of that stuff is getting hit and it's not landing inside the ballpark. Yeah. So you just look at what they have. And somebody in the chat kind of said, they need dudes on this team. And that's what I think they went out and drafted in a Liam Doyle, that they went out there and they got an SEC College World Series ace, a dude that they're hoping turns into that at the big league level.
Yeah. And I mean, like the question on a guy like Liam Doyle, how quickly do you see him? Right. There's no doubt at this point in time his fastball plays at the big league level, but the secondary pitches. And this is kind of where, you and I have chatted a little bit about Chaim Bloom and his philosophy. And if you look at Tampa over the years, Tampa again was a team that seems to hold their prospects in the minors maybe a half season longer than most other teams would. And the reason for that, obviously, with Tampa was that they were playing the long game in terms of, let's milk service time. Let's do that whole 9 yards. I mean, we don't pay guys once they get to free agency, so we got to get their 6 best years. I don't expect the Cardinals to be the same way. Having said that, there is something to be said for making certain guys are ready. If anyone can, if any fan base can understand the dangers of rushing guys to the bigs, I think it's the Cardinals at this point in time. We get a reminder of it every time we look at the guy in right field. And, it's an interesting case study, because we talk about what JJ Weatherholt's doing in AAA right now. And you're right. I think at some point in time, especially if the Cardinals are out of this race and they're just looking for any reason to get people in the ballpark, but Weatherholt continues to do what he's been doing in AAA pitching, he will deserve that, 80 at bat call up, that 100 at bat call up, the one that keeps him still rookie eligible for next year.
Which at this point, that has to be in the plans right now. Like that. If this is a runway season,
JJ Weatherholt doing that, right? Because again,
but if this is a runway season, you just you throw him into that, right?
Well, again, we can sit here and look at Jordan Walker, and you know what? This is a really tough question. Did he really come up and was he not ready? When he came up and he actually hit the ball fairly well right off the bat, but certainly wasn't making the kind of slugging contact that the team wanted. So that's when all the launch angle stuff comes down, and they send him back down to work on that, and he comes up and he's a mess again. And I don't know that Jordan Walker's ever going to have a future with this organization, because I just think it continues to be inconsistent. So again, I feel like he's the cautionary tale, and that plays both ways. That's pitching, that's hitting. I feel like you have to be, in my estimation, or at least in my opinion, with Jordan Walker, if the team was concerned about the way he swung his bat in terms of its launch angle and that sort of thing, that needed to be worked out in Memphis. He shouldn't have come up for X amount of time and then been given the idea that he wasn't good enough, that it wasn't working, that we got to go down and fix everything after a run in the bigs. So it's like with a Weatherholt. Do you have anything that's good that you need to change in his game, that you want to work on, that you want to smooth out the rough edges before he comes up? Because once he comes up, I tend to think that he'll never go back down. And
when you look at what kind of some of the prospects that were drafted around him are doing, Caliglione, from the Royals,
injured list now, but
but he's been up here and they threw him into the fire with that, and they. All right, we're going to see what you got here.
Because he's a guy who followed the exact same path as Weatherholt a little bit earlier, went and crushed AAA pitching, and and so and truthfully,
Kurt's from the age drafted fourth. Insane. Yeah, drafted fourth. Weatherholt was drafted seventh.
Yep.
That's
and Caglione was sixth.
And
so but Caglione has struggled.
Yeah, he has.
But the Royals' whole offense has struggled, and so it's kind of one of these things where. It's one of these.
But they looked at that and they said, okay, hey, he's either going to be the spark for us or he's going to learn.
Yeah,
he's going to learn what to do at a big league level, and they're not sending him back up and down like the Cardinals did with Jordan Walker. They're saying, okay, it's yours. Go for it. It's we'll figure it out up here with the big league coaches.
So we look at this team, and it's we've got a really interesting next few days, obviously, with the trade deadline coming up. What do you think? I'm just curious your thoughts on how many. Is it? I heard John Mozeliak's pregame interview with Jimmy the Cat Hayes. He said without saying that we're going to be listening. He basically was saying, nothing will happen today because it's Hall of Fame day. A bunch of GMs are out of pocket. He goes, but and so the fact that he's even intimating that there's a timeline for all this stuff to start going down, I just feel like you're clearly going to see a different team on August 1st. How different do you think it is at this point in time, Joe?
I mean, I think that bullpen, it's just going to be a complete overhaul of that bullpen.
It's where a lot of the value is, right?
That's what we were talking beforehand. Like, you remember names like Chris Roycroft, names like Ryan Fernandez. You're probably going to see them throwing a lot of innings for this team in August and September because they're not going to have the other arms there. They're not going to have Phil Maton, Ryan Helsley. I think those two have got to go. Those that you are going to get stuff back for them. Matz is the one that I'm unsure about on Steven Matz, because if any of your starters get hurt right now, who are you using as a starting pitcher?
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, Steven Matz isn't even remotely close to being stretched out. So, I mean, like, maybe you run the piggyback scheme a little bit.
Exactly.
I mean, Kyle Leahy's stretching himself out a little bit at this point in time. I mean, maybe that's the plan at some point in time. If somebody gets hurt, is it a Matz and Leahy to get you through 6 innings kind of thing, and then you figure it out from there. But that is another. If we're talking about things that have not gone well this year with this team, boy, Quinn Matthews, sort of sophomore, like, he had his breakout party last year, 3 levels. Led the minor leagues in strikeouts. I mean, this was looking like, you talked about in the chat, right? This team needs dudes. Quinn Matthews looked like a dude last year, left-handed power arm with, high-level strikeout ability, and it just has not clicked for him in AAA this year. Fighting injury. He's the one who you would have thought, here we got McGreevy here, Quinn Matthews is on deck, right? He's the next guy to come through and do this. And right now, I don't think you can say that about him. So, again, I mean, there's nobody who jumps out at you that would be, a guy who could come in and fill in the event of injury. But by the same token, again, too, if we're at a point where they've dealt all these guys, the white flag has been proverbially raised, or waved, like, bullpen game here and there. It is what it is. Memphis shuttle, we'll roll them back. I mean, they'll get through it. I don't know what the value of a Steven Matz is, right? Because I think he seems to be sort of a funky, high leverage, multi-inning guy that really, truthfully, any team could see value in. The stuff has played really well this year. He's had his moments where, a guy who sits at the top of the zone like he does all the time, you're going to get hit every once in a while, and it's going to go probably a long way when your sinker at the top of the zone doesn't really sink. So, but I think he has been wildly effective this year, and he's so versatile that, any team who really wants to make a deep run could find a value for a guy like him.
It's like an Andrew Miller. Remember Andrew Miller?
100%.
When Andrew Miller was in Cleveland.
I mean, he was insane.
Yeah, that's what you're kind of looking at with a Steven Matz. Like, we kind of talked about this morning with the way that pitching goes in October, is that it's more so, okay, we have this rotation, we're going to do this, to, hey, we got to get 27 outs. We have to get 27 outs. Who's going to get these outs along the way? Hey, Steven, we might need you to come out there and get 7 of those today.
Yep.
And that's where we're going to bring you in at this guy. We need you to get these 7 outs for us. And I think that's where his value kind of lies with that.
And the analytics will say that there are very few pitchers who third time through the lineup do better than they have the first 2 times. So again, those things go, those numbers get knocked crazy when it comes to the playoffs. They are, Blake Snell getting pulled after whatever it was, 5 one-hit innings, and because the numbers said to do it, that'll always stick out in my mind. But again, we've got this team at this point in time that, the crossroads has been reached, probably disappointingly, for this group. And I don't know, you tell me, you're looking at the comments right now. Are there fans who still think that this team should, this is fair enough. The eulogy's been written, huh?
It's more so along the lines of the, Granello looking good today, and some of the other guys, you are looking at what guys in the bullpen are your future right now.
Sure.
Like who's going to get those outs for you?
Well, let's take that to a different level too. All right. So Joe, you tell me, and folks in the YouTube chat, love to hear your thoughts on this one as well. We're talking about what the future of the bullpen is. Okay. We probably have an idea of what the future of the rotation is to some degree. Here we are, 110 plus games into the season, the runway season.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you feel good about in this lineup being back to being an everyday kind of guy?
In the lineup?
Yep. I mean, again, there's 15 more games.
Yeah.
There's more time. But this has been a big audition, right? I mean, obviously Arenado and Contreras are guys that, are what they are, and they're more contracts at this point in time. But I mean, I think that there's a case, and obviously Mason Wynn's not going anywhere, but you can make a case that every other position on the field is available for upgrade at this point in time. And I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Wilson Contreras is your first baseman next year. Like he's there. I think you could already put that in pen.
Do you think Ivan Herrera should start working in at first base?
No, I think if Ivan Herrera, if anywhere, I think he's young enough, athletic enough. I think they're gonna give him reps in the outfield.
Okay.
I really think that's where we might see
him
with that. And I don't know what that does to overall everything else, because it's, again, like primarily a DH, but that's, I think, what you're kind of looking at with.
Well, and like, I mean, again, if you've got Victor Scott playing center field, which he's another guy, I don't know that I know that he is the starting center fielder of this team next year. It's not because he doesn't have a ton of ability. It's not because he doesn't have exciting tools. But again, I mean, you and I talk about this a lot. This team's offense, this lineup continues to struggle to have a real core. The guys like Victor Scott, the guys like, to a degree, Brendan Donovan, to a degree, Lars Nootbaar, are really nice complementary players.
Mm-hmm.
They work really well when you've got real thump in the middle of the lineup, right? It was just, the Cardinals have done this for many years. You look at every good team in baseball right now, and for the most part, they've got lineups with some real thump in the middle. And then all the guys who the Cardinals have hitting in the middle of their lineups, the Donovans, the Wilson Contreras of the world, they can hit second, they can hit sixth, they can hit seventh, and it makes it all the more better. Cardinals, again, we've talked about this. They have a ton of 6-hole hitters on this team. So Victor Scott plays if he's hitting ninth for a team with a really, with a bunch of thump from 2 to 6 or 7 in the lineup. At this point in time, I just don't know that his offense is good enough to be an everyday player when, it's the same thing with Pages, right?
Pages is one, and I think a lot of people in the chat too are getting a little fed up with that. I think that's one where that's where the upgrade needs to happen this offseason.
I mean, can we admit he's a backup and a very nice backup at that, but that's what he is.
Yeah. But I think you are definitely seeing the holes in his game are getting even more and more exposed. It feels like every single series.
I think if you're, and this is what I've said about Pages, if you're going to hit 200, I mean, you've got to be the guy who's throwing out 40% of the runners who are stealing bases on you. You've got to be such a difference maker defensively. And is he better than Ivan Herrera at catcher? I think you're better than Ivan Herrera at catcher, Joe, personally. But I mean, so I think that Pages sometimes sort of looked just, oh, well, he's not that bad, and I just don't think he's an exceptional catcher defensively even. So, he's had some clutch hits over the years. He is a better defender than what they've had. So fine. But again, this can't be a guy that you sit there and you build around, And so again, I mean, I look at this thing and I say, I want Brendan Donovan in my lineup next year for sure.
Yes.
Wilson Contreras and Arenado are going to be there because I don't think they can move the contracts for one reason or another. So right there, you've got 3 guys. Ivan Herrera should be in the lineup, whether he's splitting time at first base and DH, whether he is playing left field, which might be a good spot for him. And after that, after those 4 guys, and Mason Wynn, obviously, that's 5, right? I don't know what the other 4 spots in that lineup look like.
And a lot of that too,
and I do think you can take Brendan Donovan and move him somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
Put him in the outfield as well. But I mean, at some point, if you've got Donovan in right field and Herrera in left, I think we're really starting to flirt with some.
If Donovan's in left, that means Weatherholt is second up base here, and that's a guy like Arenado is such one of those where you have no idea what you can do with it because he has the no trade clause because he has the big contract. Would you, if you could move him and go with Gorman at third and Weatherholt at second and Donovan left, sure, go for that.
There's just all these guys that are floating out there right now who are a year into arbitration, 2 years into arbitration, right? Like with the Cardinals, where, I thought we wanted to get answers this year. I mean, do you really feel good about Lars Nootbaar?
No. Matt, I have, my thoughts on that.
but again, like he's another guy, right? Like, I mean, and I don't know, there's going to be a market for guys who are still pre-free agency. What that is, I don't really know. Lars Nootbaar has always been a sabermetrics darling, right? With what he's been doing. So, but is this the offseason you move him? Is this the offseason you move Nolan Gorman? Is this the offseason you move Jordan Walker? In my estimation, I mean, and I will flat out say this team completely needs, it needs the electric paddles shocked on their heart, because I mean, the fan base is apathetic at this point in time. It's worse than them being mad. People just don't care about this team. I think they've got to turn this thing over in a pretty significant way in the offseason, and they can do it without adding a ton of payroll. It just has to, they just got to be smart about what they do. Maybe they trade, their pre-arbitration guys for some other pre-arbitration guys who might fit better. But I mean, this is where Chaim Bloom and his scouting and his pedigree of being a guy who identifies talent. I mean, this is where he's going to be needed, not just finding guys to come up in the draft and your July 2 international signings. They got to find some major league talent that might be buried. I mean, we've got the Florida Marlins coming in town. What are they? Miami Marlins? I don't know what they are at this point in time. They're coming in town. Kyle Stowers is a great example of a guy in Baltimore who just couldn't find time, right? And clearly last year when Baltimore called Florida, Miami, whatever, and said, we want Taylor Rogers or Trevor Rogers, lefty pitcher. We need somebody who's got a little control. Stowers was a guy they identified. Baltimore said, no problem. He's not in our long-term plans. Now he's he's a sniffing, he's 1,000 OPS guy at this point in time. So, I mean, this is sort of what you need. It's not easy. And I know that, right? But I mean, this team has got to do something to shock the system, because seeing what we have, this mix, it just has not been achieving the desired result for too long at this point.
And that's where, you mentioned all that, and I mean, I'd have to go through every roster, but that's where that catcher position, that's where that catcher position, you wonder what's out there.
I mean, look at a guy like Dalton Rushing is in LA, crushed the ball in AAA. He's a Dodgers prospect, comes up. Oh, wait, hold on. The guy who's winning the NL batting title is now the catcher of the Dodgers. And he's got 8 years left on his contract. That, right? There are guys like that who are just not fitting into teams, puzzle pieces. And I mean, this is what they have to do instead of just saying, well, let's see what Jimmy Crooks gives us next year or so. I mean, like, I agree that you've got to work your system, and this team, one of their biggest problems is their inability to sort of continuously cycle talent in a proper way. They've gone from the Tony La Russa model, which was, if you're a rookie, I kind of don't want you around here unless you're Albert Pujols. Like, give me all the Miguel Cairos I can find, right? He didn't want that. So, I mean, Walt Jockey just traded every young guy they ever had at that point in time, right? So, and hey, it worked. Yeah, it worked. So then here comes Mo, right? Because Jockey doesn't get along with the DeWitts on the whole metrics thing and how do we draft and develop and this and that. That's a problem. Mo comes in, they start trying to do it a little bit better, and they do. But then, like, it all just sort of then it turns into an all or nothing thing. It's not, hey, we've got 7 good solid pieces. It was, let's just swap out the entire outfield. Right, here comes Harrison Bader and Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Carlson, and they're all high draft picks, and so they're gonna do it for us.
And that's been even longer than that.
Right.
Even though,
Steven Piscotty,
yes, those guys. I mean, it keeps happening over and over and over again, where they haven't found Bader, O'Neill. It keeps going to where they can't find Arozarena. It's just over and over again.
And I will still say to this day that I think a guy like Bader, a guy like O'Neill, and O'Neill was an injury guy, but these guys, it's so much easier for them to succeed when they are the 8th or the 9th place hitter in a lineup, right? Like, I mean, when you've got an established 6 or 7 and you can just sort of sprinkle in a guy, it's what the Dodgers have always done, and it always works. Now, granted, it helps when you've got Ohtani and Betts and Freeman hitting the middle of the lineup, right? It makes it a whole lot easier for Andy Pages to come out and be like, well, hey, you know what? I'm playing pretty free and easy at this point in time because I know that I'm not the one they're depending on. And all of a sudden Andy Pages is an all-star, caliber player. So, I just think that this team has got to figure out a way to change their entire chemistry and their complexion. That's and that has to happen in the bullpen, in the rotation, but particularly in the lineup, because what they've been doing just does not work, and it's not working consistently enough.
Yeah, and again, it's so many. It's a mess that right now Chaim Bloom's going to be the one that's going to be getting it, that it's being handed this. And I'm sure that in his mind, he has visions of what this next year looks like. And
I guarantee he does.
Yeah, he's waiting to see. He's waiting to see what he's
biding
handed
his time
after this weekend. And I would imagine when you look at, when you talk about the fact that Herrera they're listening on offers with Herrera, they're listening to offers with Donovan. There has to be a conversation being had with Bloom of what this looks like. Yeah.
Right. These guys we're going to be going to invest in, and that's that sort of thing. So he is Joe Roderick. I'm Chris Pelikan. This is STL Sports Central, Card Central postgame show. It is brought to you by DraftKings, and nothing beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching baseball. And the simplest way to get in on the action is to download the Pick Six app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for two or more of your favorite players. Boom. You're in the mix for big cash prizes, Joe. Pick Six is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick Six. And right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now. Use the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
Cards lose 9-2 to split the series with the Padres. They fall to 54-53 on the year, so a measly one game over 500. They're 3.5 games out of the wild card race. He's Joe Roderick. I'm Chris Pelikan, and we aren't spending a ton of time on the game itself. This is sort of ground zero at this point in time for the future of this team. And we love all the comments that are popping up in the YouTube chat. Keep firing them. We love you guys interacting with each other and with us. And Joe, we kind of continue to talk about the future of this organization at this point in time. And, I think the easiest way for this thing to flip quickly is to get guys to waive no trade clauses and that sort of thing. But I'll sit here and I'll say this. Arenado is one player who, again, if they could find some way to move on from him. I mean, again, I love Nolan Arenado, but I mean, the production is on a very steady decline. But Wilson Contreras continues to produce. Sonny Gray continues to produce. I 100% want them to completely change the mix. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you tell me. I like these guys play out their contracts.
And I will say that with Nolan Arenado because I think that he's a Hall of Fame third baseman.
This is true.
And this year we're seeing that return of the defense that he had. The play that the double that Machado hit down the line, the one that went off his glove.
Yeah,
that's a hard play that I don't think any third baseman in baseball would have made. But when you see that and you see it go off the glove of Arenado, he's been so good this year that you're like, why didn't you get that? Like, what?
Right.
What happened there? Like, so that's where we're back with Nolan Arenado, I think, on his defense. It's just Sonny Gray. I just think there is in the offseason, maybe a 5% chance that he would move during the season. Absolutely no chance in hell that he is waiving his no trade clause. There is absolutely no way that he is going to. He has that in there for a reason. There's no way that Sonny Gray is going to up and leave.
He's an interesting one too, because like you sit there and you say he'll be entering the last year of his contract next year. Do you think that'll be a situation where the only way he'll approve a no trade is if somebody tacks on another year or two on his deal, like that sort of thing?
I just don't.
It's hard to say with him, but again, for the most part this year. For the most part, trust me, I understand recently it hasn't been that way, but you can't tell me that Sonny Gray has not been a part of a pretty decent rookie season for Matthew Liberatore, that he hasn't been a pretty decent part of Andre Palante's success when it's happened. Again, I know it hasn't happened a ton lately. I'm sure having veteran guys like that, like Sonny Gray, who has done it. And like you said, Sonny Gray's stuff is what it is. I don't think you would sit there and compare him to some of the great arms, right? He's almost a thinking man's pitcher as much as anything. His breaking stuff's pretty nasty when it wants to be. But again, this is a guy who I wouldn't mind talking to Liam Doyle next year about, all the stuff. I mean, the way Wainwright kind of guided so many of these young guys over the years, and Chris Carpenter taught guys for so many years, this is a guy I don't mind having around. And if for some reason Sonny Gray moves on, I still think you got to see if you can find another close to the top of the rotation sort of guy who can mentor. Because again, I think maybe I'm wrong on this, but do you say right now, if you're betting on DraftKings, do you think McGreevy, Pelikan, Liberatore are all in the Cardinals rotation next year from day one?
McGreevy, Pelikan, Liberatore. I will say Liberatore, McGreevy, absolutely yes. Pelikan is one I'm not sure about. That's one I would right now. I would say yeah, just because it's so hard. I mean, if you're talking about trying to replace, and I guess are we assuming Gray's in there too?
Yeah.
So okay, then maybe that's where Pelikan comes back maybe a little bit. Then maybe the chances of him drop a little bit, just because I was going to say replacing 2 out of 5 starters, that's doable.
Yeah.
But if you replace somebody, they're not going to go out and get a number 1 or number 2.
They certainly won't pay for that guy in the open market and free agency.
So,
and I don't know how many of those guys might be available via trade, but I do think there's going to be higher level guys who they might have a shot at if they're willing to dump some decent players.
Yeah. And that's where I do wonder about the Pelikan decision, just because are you going to find somebody that's better than him? He hasn't been lights out. He has been a good, solid. And I think somebody even earlier said, is he the ace of the staff this year? If you go out there right now and you said, let's throw 1 through 6, let's even go back. We'll put Fedde into this. If you were to rank your confidence when you sit there and you go, you're just talking during the day, you get to work and you go, who's starting tonight for the Cardinals? Oh, it's Michaelis. What's your reaction if that's the conversation? What's your reaction if you go, Gray's on the mound tonight? Who do you have the most confidence where you go, oh, okay.
Gray by a mile. For me. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some of his starts recently,
he's had some clunkers.
Right. So that's where I'm saying, is Pelikan, do you go Pelikan
Pelante's had
over
some
that?
Clunkers too.
So that's why you're 1 game over 500.
Exactly. This is very true. This is very true.
That's where I kind of put that the confidence meter in that, to where it's okay. Is it who are you, I guess, groaning the least for when you hear that they're the starting pitcher?
I'm still Gray, because Gray's the one who's got the chance to, he's got the opportunity to go out there and throw 6 or 7 really, really good clean innings. I don't know that any of the rest of them really do at this point in time. That's just me. I really do think that he's the guy. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, again, if we're ranking 1 through 6, like you said, counting McGreevy and Fedde in that, in the course of confidence of a decent start at this point in time, number 1 for me is Gray. Number 2 for me is probably Liberatore at this point in time. I just, it's so weird with him now that even on Saturday night when they pull him at, whatever it was, 70 something pitches. Mm-hmm. They are clearly managing workload at this point in time. So it's okay. If I need somebody to go out there and save the bullpen and throw 7 innings, obviously Liberatore is not going to be that guy because the team will not allow it. But in terms of effectiveness, Gray, Liberatore is 1, 2 for me. And then after that, Fedde's 6 for me for sure. And then at that point in time,
5.
Probably. Although Michaelis is just,
it's like an all or nothing.
He's a coin flip, man.
Michaelis 100% is either going out there and tossing 6 innings of scoreless ball, or you're looking up and there's 7 runs in the second
first. You got it. That's it. So I don't know.
So that's where I'm saying, confidence is low. If that's real low.
I agree. And again, that's why Michaelis will not play for this team next year. Again, I just think we've seen enough positives out of all 3 of those guys this year. And they are relatively young to say we can build off this. They can get better. You don't really expect Miles Michaelis to get better, right? You don't expect Eric Fedde to get better.
No.
Somebody
Bill throwing out there, Liberatore being on a pitch count. I don't know if it's on a pitch count. I think it's a lot more. I think it is more innings. Honestly, you hear Ollie Marmol talk a lot about the whole up and down. How many times is he getting up and down? That's been a big thing with Kyle Leahy recently. With how, because they're wanting to see how, much of a starter there's going to be. The pitches are one thing. It's going and sitting down for 10, 15 minutes and then coming back out and pitching again. And I think that's what they're trying to limit Livator right now, starting it back up. Like, I think it does kind of go back to the whole Matt situation too, to where you want to keep a guy around that can bridge you to.
Agreed.
Games. Yeah.
Agreed. But again, too, I still think that they'll run guys out there. They'll pull journeyman out of Memphis, whatnot, to cover some innings and get smacked around. I mean, I just, this all comes back to, and I talked about this a little bit this morning about the value in return, right? Like, what are you going to get? You certainly are not going to find a guy who is on Baseball America's top 50 prospect list coming back to the Cardinals in any of these deals at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of you'll see. I mean, maybe if Eugenio Suarez moves somewhere, you might see one of these guys who most people consensusly believe is going to be, I think that's a word, consensusly. I think that you're not going to find people who, are believed to be top 3, 4, 5 prospects and organizations moving at this point in time, maybe with the exception of Suarez, or maybe if a Mitch Keller gets moved by the Padres or the Pirates, there's some of those names being floated out there. You've heard some stuff like that. And so, but for the Cardinals, 3 guys that we think will get traded, Maton, Matz, and Helsley, I just don't know what you see. So then the question becomes, again, we talked about this morning about the Helsley situation, where Bob Nightingale's reported that the team pretty much has already said they don't think they would offer him a qualifying offer, because you always have to factor that in, right? Like, it's a 1-year, $21 million deal, which in my mind is actually not terrible value. No. And again, I don't think Ryan Helsley has any interest in a 1-year contract. He knows this is his one shot, but by the same token, if the offers don't come, maybe that $21 million looks good, but the Cardinals could be in the same spot next trade deadline.
Exactly.
And that sort of thing. And you're not committing long-term to a guy. So I think it'd be very short-sighted for them to not offer him a qualifying offer. And then if he does go sign somewhere else, you get that pick at the end of the first round, which again, I mean, that's, you're finding guys in those spots who end up being, I mean, Gunnar Henderson, I think was from the Orioles. Yes. If he wasn't a competitive balance one, he was an early second. So, I mean, there's plenty of talent available at that point in time in the draft. And so let's not blow that aside. So I will still sit here and say that, Phil Maton's a guy who you just got to, basically bring in the auctioneer, bring in Reed Lowe. He does that now. Reed Lowe is an auctioneer. I've been to like 3 auctions and I'm like, why do I know that? It's freaking Reed Lowe. He's gigantic and he does the whole thing. It's fantastic. Former Blues tough guy, Reed Lowe. But anyway, let's get Reed Lowe to get in front of all other, all 29 other MLB GMs and just start doing, what are we going to get for Phil Maton? Get rid of him. I would say the same thing on Matt's, right? Because you're just not bringing him back. And I do think there's value. The Helsley one's a little bit more interesting to me. And again, if they don't like the return, which there's going to be offers, there's no question about it. I don't know. I'd probably roll the dice with him in the offseason.
I was very, when you said earlier in the show, I was very surprised to hear Mo say that because it's the Hall of Fame day, like there's not going to be any moves going. Like you're 4 days away from that, and we're just going to have a universal day where nothing today. Like it's already shameful that they do the Hall of Fame the way they do for baseball. Just on a Sunday when there's 15 games going on, there's nothing around, there's no games around at all. Next week's the Hall of Fame game for the NFL. Like you're having teams that are in that game that have something to do with the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So you're getting fans there. Like you don't have a major league stadium or something like that in Cooperstown to where you could have who went into Ichiro went in today. And
Billy Wagner.
Yeah, you can't have, set it up to where you have the Astros and the Mariners playing each other somewhere there for that.
It would seem to make sense.
Yeah, or just do it in the offseason. Do it in November.
Too.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone's
the week after the week after the World Series is done, you do it.
Billy Wagner's kid plays for the Blue Jays and actually took the weekend off. Paternity leave, not really, but they called it personal reasons or whatever. And it just so he could go and visit his dad as Hall of Fame introduction. So yeah, I mean, again, I agree with the sentiment. And I will say this. I feel like, and Mo even made a comment about this. these deals happen in the hours leading up. I mean, nobody is motivated until there's a hard and fast stop, right? Like,
which is it always, and I get it. I mean, we're going to be sitting here, we're going to be live moments before the trade deadline on Thursday. Like, we're going to be sitting right here and doing a show and bringing you everything as it comes down the wire for that. And we're, sitting here really just refreshing Twitter, refreshing MLB trade rumors and talking to you. That's going to be the show. And you would think if you need a Ryan Helsley and you have the means to acquire a Ryan Helsley, why would you not want Ryan Helsley on your roster tomorrow instead of Friday? Like,
right.
Why would you not want 4 more games of the possibility of him being in your bullpen?
I mean, I promise you there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of proposals texted to GMs, right?
Yeah.
And most of them have been met with the laughing, crying emoji, at this point in time, right? So, like, I mean, they're happening right now.
They are. There's a couple that are coming through.
What do you need? Let's go back and forth on this. How about this guy in? No, I don't want him. Blah, 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 blah. And again, like, the motivation doesn't happen until that clock starts ticking backwards. So, I think it's going to be a pretty busy offseason or a pretty busy trade deadline.
It should be.
From the standpoint, there are so many teams that are still around.
Add to that, Aaron Judge just gets put on the injured list, and the Yankees are now going to need somebody to replace that. So there are a lot of things right now. If you go to MLB trade rumors, the top thing is that the Cubs are interested in Mackenzie Gore.
Yeah. That'd be the most Cubs move ever.
That would shock me if the Nationals traded him after the year he's having with that.
Well, and again, I mean, like, you sit there and, like, this is the kind of guy, right? We're talking about top 50 prospects not moving. Well, I mean, you know what? Maybe this is when the Cubs have a loaded farm system.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Cade Horton up right now pitching with the big team, but I mean, like, that's the kind of guy who you'd build a trade around, right? Who was a top 50 prospect. But Mackenzie Gore, like you said, he's a guy who I'm not sure where he is in his arbitration cycle, but I mean, maybe Washington's looking at it and saying, we aren't going to be, which would blow my mind, because I think Washington seems like they're very close.
They should be close. You should, when you have CJ Abrams, you have James Wood, you have Dylan, Cruz. I almost said Cease. Dylan Cruz.
They might have him at some point in time, but they don't.
I knew it wasn't Carlson. It wasn't Cease. I was trying to think of the other Dylan. Yeah. You have the pieces there to build around. Why not have the ace, the all-star, stay there on your staff and build? We're sitting here talking about how hard, like, the Cardinals have a rotation, a bunch of 3, 4, and 5s, and why would you
trade a 26-year-old ace, right? And like, honestly, I mean, it's the thing I've heard about the Nationals, and we're really veering off course, but since the learner dad died, the kid doesn't care. This is Gussie Busch and the third all over again here, but and so, I mean, Mackenzie Gore is the kind of guy who will end up with a pretty big contract within a couple of years. And so if Washington decides that, obviously they did pretty well trading Juan Soto. Yep. I mean, and so
you're just seeing all the pieces there now. Like, everything is there right now for them. And, and they are making some low-level moves. So again, and you say we're veering off. I mean, really, we're just trying to sit here and figure out how all these things affect the Cardinals.
How it interlocks.
Just how, all of those different things come around.
Yeah. So. Well, and I think it's going to be interesting because you definitely have the teams like the Cubs and the Brewers and the Yankees who have championship aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who are going to want the quote unquote difference makers, the Mackenzie Gores of the world, right? The guys who might start a World Series game for you, if you end up getting them. But I mean, there are so many teams floating on that periphery right around the third wild card spot that, I mean, I think you will see a whole bunch of the John Mozeliak specials where John Lester, gets moved and Jose Quintana gets moved. I think you're going to see some of these guys float around, and that's where, that's the interesting. We talk about the 3 bullpen guys as sort of the obvious ones that make sense, but who knows? I mean, if Nootbaar comes back and is healthy, is he a guy who the team might look at sending somewhere, right? To a team that needs left-handed, punch, so to speak, and a pretty decent corner defensive outfielder.
I would think if that's if you get the option out there, he's definitely one that would get moved to,
and so it's stuff like that I think will be the real curveballs for us, right? Because I think it just makes all the sense in the world that the expiring contracts are going to go. But
Nootbaar wouldn't be this one. Gorman would be. We're coming out. We have a thing coming out tomorrow on STL today or STLSportsCentral.com. We'll have a thing coming out tomorrow, kind of a prediction of a lot of our Cardinal people, Cardinal talkers, kind of predicting certain who's going where for that. So we will, we'll have that out there. And one of the guys I kind of look at is a Nolan Gorman with that too. Like, is he tradable right now? What kind of return are you possibly getting with him?
These are the questions that in my mind, I have no idea. Because how is Nolan Gorman viewed by the baseball community? Right? Cardinal fans are going to look at Nolan Gorman and say, underachieved so far, had some issues staying healthy, defensively somewhat versatile at the second and third, but really not great at either of those things. And the Cardinal fans are skewed because this guy was sold to us as a 40 home run guy who's going to be hitting in the middle of the order for 6-7 years. And he's not that guy. No. The power is absurd. The power is legit. The contact has gotten better this year. I mean, I think this has been, with the exception of the season.
And then he gets hurt. Yeah.
With the exception of his kind of quote unquote break season, this one has been interesting because we've seen a more well-rounded Nolan Gorman at the plate. And I think it's a spot to build off of. So, again, you sit there and you say, it doesn't make a lot of money. So it's not important that you get rid of him for that factor. But, in my, like Jordan Walker, is this a guy who's going to reach his potential here? And, if somebody makes you an offer of a comparable young starting pitcher who maybe hasn't figured it out just yet, but might be a few mechanical adjustments or a different voice in his ear, making the turn, I don't know. I mean, I think those are the kind of things, basically, like I said before, just about that whole change of scenery idea and mixing things up.
We have Cardinal trade news.
Yep.
Breaking Cardinal trade news from Fansided's Robert Murray. The Cardinals and Braves have made a trade. Eric Fedde to the Atlanta Braves. It's true. I'm sorry I built it up the way I just did, but no, this just came across.
I mean, did everyone else just hear like the Price is Right? Like boom, 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 boom.
Undisclosed amount of money is headed to Atlanta for the trade. But yeah, that's
Atlanta's in a terrible spot with their rotation. Yeah. I mean, there's been injury. I mean, I didn't text you this, but I had texted numerous people this. You've heard Marcell Ozuna, basically Brian Snitker said that Ozuna wasn't going to play much anymore, right? That they were going to rotate Baldwin and Murphy between catcher and DH. And so all of a sudden Ozuna's sitting there by himself. And I was like, is Mozeliak going to make the most Mozeliak trade in the history of Mozeliaks and trade Miles Michaelis for Marcell Ozuna? I know that the Ozuna thing didn't go well, but I'm like, you talk about passing the trash, more,
there's no way.
It turned out to be Fedde.
Yeah.
Turned out to be Fedde for cash,
but he's coming back, that he would ever
come back here. This team has struggled against left-handed pitching mightily. You bring the great Marcell Ozuna back, get him back in left field where he feels comfortable defensively.
I had to hit refresh a couple times to see if MLB Trade Rumors was hacked to put this out there. I didn't think that was even.
I mean, I know this that Atlanta's they've got a spot open in their rotation for tomorrow's game because it just keeps. I mean, Grant Holmes, who has been fantastic for them this year, is down with injury at this point in time. That stable of great young pitchers that were in Atlanta's system a year ago, it's drying up pretty good. AJ Smith-Shawver's out for the year with Tommy John, and so like Schwellenbach has been hurt. So it's like, I mean, honestly, this is scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Eric Fedde, by all accounts, seemed like a really nice guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the Cardinals.
Professional.
I don't know which direction I'd want a start of his to go if he starts this week, because if it goes well, do you just get all kinds of blame on the Cardinal organization for that? Which direction does that go? They have the opening. Spencer Strider set to start tomorrow for the Braves. Tuesday
is the opening
at Kansas City.
Yeah.
So that's where the opening is, TBD right now.
Well, I wish Eric Fedde all the best. And again, you and I talk about this a bunch. I still to this day will I'll die on the hill of scenery changes being just a huge part of baseball. And it's, I have been openly mocked for many things, Joe, but I mean, one of the things I've said that I don't know that Sandy Alcantara would have won a Cy Young and he stayed in St. Louis. I don't know that Zach Gallen would have been as good as he was had he stayed in St. Louis.
Right.
I think part of it is you go to a different team. They approach their metrics different than other teams. Certain things work with people that other things don't. The Cardinals used to be the beneficiary of this all the time.
Yeah, Cardinal devil magic. All
You
the
got
time.
it. And now it seems to be working a little bit. I think it's going back on us a little bit in that regard. And so, but it happens, right? So this is another reason in my mind why the team should just sort of make some change for the sake of change, because you just don't know, right? And the mix that they've got right now seems to be really stale. And so, back to the original topic. I mean, there's very few guys in my mind who are off limits. And I think that goes for the trade deadline. That goes for the offseason. And Chaim Bloom, I think, should come in and put his stamp on this team really, really quickly. I mean, I think, and you cannot, which I think is what has killed John Mozeliak's legacy. You cannot be afraid to lose a trade. Okay. It's going to happen. Just because it didn't happen to him for a bunch of years. Well, that all his devil magic wore out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when he lost the Marcell Ozuna trade, when he lost the Arozarena trade, he just went into a shell and said, I'm not making trades anymore. It just isn't worth it at this point in time to take risks. And shockingly, that's coincided with this team's demise. So again, he used to be the best at it. I hope Bloom sort of picks up where he left off there. Joe, you got any final thoughts?
I got nothing else. I'm looking forward to trade deadline week here on STL Sports Central. Instant reaction shows if and when the Cardinals make a big move. Not Eric Fedde to the Braves. Not going to do an instant reaction to that. That's what that just was. That was our.
We did it. That was our Eric Fedde.
Sorry, I didn't throw the graphic up on the screen for that. Should have done that. Me on that one. Here you go. We'll put it up on the screen. There you go. Card Central instant reaction. Eric Fedde to the Braves.
Dun, 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 dun.
There you go.
Boom. For an undisclosed amount of cash.
Yes.
Do we believe that amount of cash is over or under $1,000?
I'm gonna say 6 figures. I'm gonna say 6 figures. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Everything
must
paying
go.
a good amount of that contract to him. Yeah, they're gonna. What was it? $2.4 million that they were owed. Yeah, they're gonna say, okay.
My assumption is the entire part minus the prorated minimums.
Yeah, so we'll give you a 1.8 million. For that. You pay him about $600K, and we'll call it even.
He is Joe Roderick. I'm Chris Pelikan. This has been the Cards Central postgame show right here on STL Sports Central. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for participating in the YouTube chat. The show is brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. And folks, we will see you tomorrow from Miami.
No, they're here. They're here.
But we're going to go to Miami and do the show.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
So I think that's what we're doing now. We'll see you.